Okay. Hello, everyone. So if I have not met you before, I just want to do a quick introduction. Welcome to Spotlight Thursday. My name is Lori, and I am a business success coach who helps aspiring digital nomads and entrepreneurs to build profitable remote-based businesses that give them freedom of time and location to work from anywhere in the world. Today, I have joining me Adam. And Adam is a freelance designer and marketer. And we're going to be talking about a few different topics today. And I will let Adam kind of lead into that with a little bit of an introduction. If you could introduce yourself, Adam.
Perfect. Thanks. So I'm Adam. I live in LA, but I've been involved with a couple of different startups over the past few years that are actually all over the place. So most recently, I was with one in Michigan, but I've also worked with business owners in Canada, Australia, and even over the course of work, interacted with a development team in India. So I've definitely gotten a taste of that digital nomad lifestyle, even though I haven't worked from anywhere else yet or traveled like some other people have. But I've been a co-founder. I've done everything from graphic design and web development to social media and putting together solutions for things like a virtual help desk and knowledge base, live chat, payment processing, and other random stuff. So doing all this sounds great, but there have definitely been some struggles along the way. So it's great to have a coach like Lori to talk to about some of these things. So the first thing, in addition to everything I listed above, I also do other things. So I can do video editing, SEO, Facebook ads, promoting events, but I don't feel like I do any of them really well. I wouldn't call myself an expert in any one thing because I haven't committed to a path. So I'd love to be the best at one thing, so people know me as the go-to that for thing, but there's so many. So for myself and other people who consider themselves a jack of all trades, how would you go about choosing the one thing that's most worth perfecting?
Well, as you said, having a coach to talk to, in my mind, of course, as a coach is probably one of the number one things that you can do. But just, even if it's not a coach, a paid mentor, to have somebody that you can go to talk about these things and to really help bounce ideas off of, because it's so, I call it being multi-passionate, and many of you have probably heard that term before. And I've had many people that I've worked with, myself included, that consider themselves multi-passionate. And while it is great to be a jack of all trades, as they say, it is important, especially when you're really trying to start out and find a place for yourself in the world as a remote entrepreneur, to kind of have that one area that you do specialize in. There's a lot to it. So, within the time that we have here, we'll talk a little bit about, what that looks like. But making, I guess, the best use of your time is going to be number one, and getting really clear on how you want to use that time. But having that clarity within your schedule of what it is that you're working on and concentrating on, because I think some of us find ourselves acting as this, jack of all trades and jumping from one thing to the next because we haven't given ourselves the structure to really focus in on one thing. And that does start with just your schedule and blocking time. Like, okay, I'm focusing on this today, and this is what I'm going to learn, and keeping yourself on task so that you aren't jumping over to, okay, right now I'm designing something, tomorrow I'm doing video editing. And it's okay, as you grow into, a full stack agency model, especially, to, of course, have those different talents. But at that point, you're also going to probably have a team that's supporting you in that. To become known as an expert in something, though, you do have to do something really well. And how, I guess, I help people to do that, and how I've found myself that is going to be successful is doing the work to do the research around the different areas. So you mentioned video editing, you mentioned design, you mentioned, I don't even know, social media, it's a web development. There's lots of things there. So doing the research, to see where the opportunities are in each of those areas and how those align with your own personal goals. And if you don't have personal goals, taking a step back and setting those, not just for your professional life, but for your personal life and the lifestyle that you see for yourself, and then figuring out how these align, and then also figuring out what the opportunities within each of these markets are. Because as much as you want to be multi-passionate, not every opportunity is going to give you the same opportunities. There may be some that you find are more saturated or more, there's going to be some niches that are like a gold mine. And why would you avoid putting yourself in that situation because you're passionate about something else? You can always have passions, but you can focus in on one area to be your primary income source. And then as you grow and scale, you can bring those other things back in and either grow into, like I said, like an agency, or you, like myself, you can have multiple businesses, or you can just do some of these things as a hobby. I don't know. Does that kind of answers that? I hope a little bit.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And it kind of goes into the next point about time management. So I can do a lot of things, but I also have a million different ideas. But again, I'm not the best at managing my time. So I like what you said about starting with the goals, and figuring out, I guess, what you want personally. So when I think of something new, I tend to get overexcited, though, and could easily spend hours designing a logo and looking up domain names before I even do anything. So I guess another question then next would be, if you're starting from the very beginning, right, how do you curtail some of that excitement and focus on what really matters? So when you're at the very beginning, like I said, what would you say maybe is that one thing that really matters? Is it researching your audience first, or deciding what problems you want to solve, or deciding what product or service or solutions to offer?
Right. Well, we actually have a question here, and I think it will go in line with this. So 8-Bit Patty said she has. I'm going to go with she.
Hi, Patty.
Yes. Plenty of goals, but no structure. So thank you, Patty, for that question. And I think, again, that really aligns with, what Adam asked here, and, kind of deciding what product or service or solutions to offer and how to really narrow that down. It begins with that structure and putting that in place. So, I like to call it building the base. So sometimes you do need to take the step back and spend a fair amount of time not only setting those goals, but structuring those goals. And I like to do that in a way where, you have your priorities. I actually like to kind of just do a brain dump of goals, as many as you can think about. And then once you have that brain dump, then kind of taking that step back and assessing, okay, is this a long-term goal, a short-term goal, and really like figuring out what the time frame for you wanting that is. So let's say, you want to be an entrepreneur who is making 10K per month. Okay. And you want to do that within 12 months. Mm-hmm. So then you back it down even further to put that structure into place to say, okay, what do I need to accomplish by quarter, and breaking it down into those 4, main milestones per quarter. What does that look like in order to reach that goal of 10K by quarter? Patty, and Adam, break that down to what you need to accomplish, what you need to figure out there, because you can say I want to make 10K, but then again, you need to figure out your offer. So you need to bring it down and all the way back to quarter one. And in that quarter one of those milestones may be determining your offer and doing your market research to really truly define your audience. Am I making sense here so far?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I really like the idea of breaking it into chunks too. And that also kind of the next thing it definitely relates to. So even though some tasks are more important to focus on, there's still a lot of things to figure out, as I mentioned before. So if you want to make progress, you want to do things, but you can't spend too much time on any one thing, right? So I like to say sometimes good enough really is good enough. But some people like me are definitely perfectionists. So it's hard to move on when you're not 100% satisfied. So back to what you were saying before, kind of figuring out your offer and thing. I know it's very common for people to build an MVP, or minimum viable product, but we kind of deal with service-based entrepreneurs, right? So a lot of people watching might be service-based, not product-based entrepreneurs with businesses. So does the same thing apply, and what kind of MVP? And if you're building an absolute minimum thing, if you'd call it, what kind of MVP can you build or offer to test that service?
Sure. So that very much does apply whether you are, a product-based entrepreneur or a service-based entrepreneur. And I think even more so maybe when you're service-based, because you don't have like the expensive like production costs or something like that. It's just you and your services and what you're putting out there to people. So, what I like to tell people and what, a lot of my clients find success with is not overthinking. And as perfectionists, those of us that have that, little perfection streak in us, we have that tendency to overthink and to try to create the whole program. So let's say, you are a graphic designer and you're focusing in on web design, and your product or your service is, developing and designing a complete website solution for somebody. So you may start with just that. I will design a, aesthetically pleasing website for you. Even though you may want SEO, you may want to add, some other buildups to that. You may want to add copywriting. But when it comes down to it, you aren't a copywriter, and you may not have a relationship yet with a copywriter. Does that mean that needs to hold you back from starting your career, in your business as a web designer? Absolutely not. It means that you just push forward, because you may decide that, okay, let's say your clientele is comedians, and you may decide, okay, I want to do websites for comedians. Well, if you put all of your eggs in that basket and you say, okay, I'm going to also offer copywriting and SEO services as part of my design package, well, great. But do they need that? Because that may or may not actually be relevant to them. So your minimum viable product is ultimately going to be just going in with an offer, having your basic structure, set up, and finding out what your clients truly want and what they're asking for. So then once you actually start working with those clients, if they're saying, well, the website's all fine and beautiful, Adam, but in order for people to find me, I need search engine optimization, and you didn't do that. Okay, well, then you can say, oh, well, no problem. We can definitely do that. And you can then create a different package going forward. If you're hearing that feedback from your clients, then you need to revisit your package. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. And I see another comment says,
yeah,
Patty says she overthinks everything, gets nothing done. Same here. I overthink, I overdo. So that all definitely makes sense. And I like the idea of doing just one thing at a time, right? So just the website. And I tend to definitely get bogged down. But recently I thought of an idea, and as I said before, jumped in to do a logo and started looking up domain names and what extension do you want? Does it sound cooler to have something agency.com or the new extension something.agency, right? Because that sounds cool and looks cool, but is it common enough for people to actually understand? So that kind of brings me to the last thing, is multitasking. So even if you focus on one thing and you have one goal in mind, it's hard to, when you're starting a business, there's still so many individual tasks to do, right? So obviously when you're starting a business, you have to trust people at some point and hire people to help you, because you can't do everything on your own. And it goes back to making the best use of your time. So hiring people will definitely allow you to get more done, but letting others help means you can make much better use of your own time too. So I guess the question is, and I've been looking, I always do research on these things, and trying to get better at different things. And this is kind of a soft skill. So trying to focus, and how do you feel, or what do you know about multitasking kind of as a discipline? Is it really a thing? Can you actually do just one thing at a time? Do you know as a coach if people are more productive when they spend 20, 30 minutes on one task, or is it just human nature to really try and do everything?
Well, yes, it is human nature, I think, to try to do everything and to convince ourselves that multitasking is a thing. If you ask my husband, he has told me for years, before I got into coaching, said multitasking isn't a thing. And for a while, I argued with him, but you know what? He's right. He's not around, so I can say that. But it's something that I really try to instill in my clients is chunking it down. And it goes back to the goals, and chunking it down and taking it even further back from, the quarterly to the monthly, to the weekly, to the daily, and breaking it down and only focusing on one thing at a time. Because the more things that you try to focus on at one time, the worse you ultimately do at each of them. Okay. Because you're not going to do any of them well. And as a perfectionist, you are setting yourself up to fail when you are multitasking, because you're never going to get anything perfect. And just a side note, again, I used to have those perfectionist tendencies myself. Nothing is ever perfect. So reminding yourself of that first and foremost is important. But, again, going back to Patty's question about, or, comment about overthinking everything and getting nothing done, that is like that hamster wheel that so many entrepreneurs get stuck in, and it's because we are trying to do too much at once. So what I would recommend is, let's say you have your to-do list and there's 50 things on it. You should not be looking at that on a daily basis. Okay. I like to do it weekly, where I set up, my goals and my tasks for the week. And you may have that big brain dump, and it may even be like your monthly or quarterly or whatever brain dump. And then each week you should have a plan of what it is that you're working on. And then you also figure that out by day. And each day you should have no more than, well, especially when you're starting out and you're struggling, no more than 1 to 3 tasks on your daily, what I like to call to-do list instead of to-do list. Because when you look at that giant to-do list or to-do list, the to-do is when you can actually bring it down. The to-do is like the overwhelm. Oh my God. But when you look at that, it's like you just look at it, you overthink everything, and then you don't do anything and you don't get anything accomplished. So by taking one thing at a time, you can feel that sense of accomplishment, because then you're not looking back at this giant list of things that you have to do where it doesn't feel like you've accomplished anything, and you don't get that sense of accomplishment, and you don't also do anything well. So being able to focus each day on just 1, 2, or 3 things as you get a little more advanced. But within that day, if you have 3 things, then you should be chunking down your day even. And you should be having, like, in your calendar, blocks of time, whether you're someone that likes a Google Calendar or you like something physical in front of you, like, you need to actually block out times every day where you're working on specific tasks.
Yeah, and I was doing that for a while. I found this app or website called Plan, I think. I don't remember the website exactly, but I can look it up. But it actually let you physically drag in your blocks of time. But I guess even on Google Calendar or iCal, you can type in a start time and an end time and actually create a block and visually see it, almost like, how we had our old school schedules where you print it out and it tells you what class, and it's an hour and a half, or this one's only half an hour because it's a lab or whatever. So I guess the same idea. That's definitely a good model for scheduling and planning. So
yeah, and exactly. And some people like, different things. I personally I have a planner. I don't have it next to me, otherwise I'd show you. But I like to do that in my planner, and I like to set my priorities for the day. And if I determine that there's other priorities within that task, then I accomplish those separately. But I like to write it down in a planner. I also, know people that are big on like a whiteboard, and they like to color code it on a whiteboard. And it's like, okay, the green block is for client communications. I'm sending emails, I'm sending DMs, I'm doing follow-up, whatever. And you have everything color coded, and that makes it really easy for some people.
That's smart.
again, you don't have to overthink, okay, well, what is this? You just look at the color and it's like, okay, that is set aside for that type of, whether it's social media, and then you can have your task within there. But just,
yeah, I've also considered getting a planner and getting a whiteboard, but that's another example of kind of analysis paralysis, if that's what they call it. But it's like, well, should I get the whiteboard or the planner? Is it better to have a physical calendar or write things free form in a list? So it kind of starts at the beginning, right? So goals, focus, priorities, and just do what best works for you, works best for you, because
exactly,
not everything is the same for everyone.
Yeah, and if whiteboard is what it is that you tend to go with, if you're a digital nomad, for me that doesn't work because I'm just not at any place long enough to have a big one. But we do actually have a small little whiteboard that my husband uses, so you can still do it. You just have to be able to write small. And there's certain things that work better for different people, and you can try all of them and say, okay, this month I'm going to give a planner a try, see how that works for me. Next month I'm going to try the whiteboard, and then you compare. I'm all about the data, okay? Data-driven decision making, even down to that, like how you produce results for yourself and on your own tasks. So just
definitely
figure out what works for you. I can't remember Wordsworth Planner. That's a good one. And I'm not sponsored by them or anything. It's just that's the one that I have, and it's really great for goal planning.
Definitely, yeah. Well, this was super helpful. So again, to kind of recap, I guess, focus. So there is a verdict. You should focus on one thing. Don't multitask.
Yes.
Because you might lose focus, especially if you are a perfectionist, because doing too much will mean none of them are perfect, right? And if none of them are perfect, you won't be satisfied, and it's a whole cycle. So do your best to write down your priorities, list goals, and figure out what's the most important.
Yes. And, just get help really is something. And it doesn't, obviously I'm a big proponent of coaches, not only because I am one, but because I've had coaches and they changed my life. And, if you're not in a position to get a coach, just finding a mentor or, a business bestie, like someone who has aligned goals with you. This probably isn't going to be your regular best friend or your mom or people whose goals are not aligned, but other entrepreneurs that, you can network, and meet in various places to just help hold each other accountable for those goals. And I do want to take the opportunity here to invite anyone who is watching to join me in our Facebook group. And it is, the Zennial High Ticket Service-Based Entrepreneurs group on Facebook. And there is a link in my bio on Instagram, or you can search it on Facebook, or just send me a message and I'll find that, because this is exactly why we created this group, was to help entrepreneurs like yourself, to have that, A, the education, and B, that accountability factor, and to be able to network with other like-minded people. And it's a great opportunity for you to meet those people so that you can help hold each other accountable. We also do like to share goals. And if you put them out there to the world, then there's other people that are going to be there to help hold you accountable to them.
Definitely accountability. And some people just need that push to get started. And I think I do know some people who have businesses here or that may be watching, want to start businesses. So it's a good thing, if nothing else, to interact with other people who are of like mind.
Exactly. So, okay. Well, this was a great conversation, Adam. I really, thank you for joining me today to kind of just chat it out.
Of course, it was very, very useful.
Good. Hope everybody else found value in this. And again, you can find me on Instagram here or in our Facebook group if you have questions. Looking forward to talking to everybody. And if you want to join me next week, we will be joined by Matthew Banks, who we will be talking about some various topics, including virtual assistants. So
that's a good topic.
Yes, it is. They are much needed. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adam. Have a great day.